I am Andrea. I am with Minoria, and we're consistently looking to help disadvantaged businesses and niched in the construction industry to prepare you guys for procurement opportunities. And one of the preparations that tools that we have are these monthly webinars that consist of topics and resources that we can provide for contractors. So welcome. And right now we're going to be talking about bidding opportunities, the best practices. Okay. All right, so let's we're just going to go over some of the elements that we're going to address for this webinar. We have we're going to go over the importance of selecting a prospect and really doing our research before doing our bid process. The strategy, having a strategy behind that, having a once the bid selection is completed or identified, what is the process? What's the best process to have a better outcome out of this? And then, of course, the communication, how the essentials of communicating with your team and with the prospect, right? Estimators, project managers. And we're going to open it up for questions. Now, in regards of any questions, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please hold on to them towards the end of the webinar. We are going to address all the questions, and like I mentioned, Jonathan is going to be able to help me. Okay. All right. So let's talk about prospects and identifying bids. Right. For a lot of contractors, the challenges sometimes is that there are so many opportunities. You get to hear it from so many people that there's opportunities with the city, there's opportunities with private companies, there's opportunities, you know, the Department of Transportation, and sometimes we don't even know where to focus our attention and our time to have the best outcome. So this is it's essential that you identify the company, and sometimes identifying means doing a lot of research, right? There's a lot of organizations that have small business liaisons, small business representatives that it's important to communicate with estimators, project managers. Avoid using only bid platforms to identify bid opportunities, because sometimes once you go into the bid opportunities and it's already out for bid, most likely there's it's a little too late to put a bid in and have an effective outcome. Usually you have to do the research before, identify any upcoming projects from the organization, and then be ready for the bid to come out. So just, I'm not saying there's not a good outcome out of going into the bid platforms, but it's best to do your research before and do some of the homework before. And then understand, if you're trying to do business with an organization, understand what their outreach is. You want to see the what's better for you, right? As a company, as an organization. If you specialize, let's say you're a general contractor and you do prime projects, then you might want to get into what are the outreach events that are out there to help small businesses or disadvantaged businesses with preferences. So, for example, there's organizations that if you get certified, let's say as a minority owned or a small business, then sometimes they'll give you a bid preference, right? There's a percentage of a bid preference that might steer you more into that organization than another one. They also provide a better net pay for the certified organizations. So that's a process, and that's a way of being able to identify who your prospect is going to be. And then I highly encourage you to refer to our previous webinar that took place, where it's titled, it's all about strategy and having a plan to be prepared for the bidding opportunities. Now, in regards of strategy, we want to identify a process, right? If in case you don't have it, you might have it already. But I highly encourage you to identify sort of a workflow process that's gonna get you into a pattern of measuring, right? So some of the bid research processes have to do with just developing a questionnaire, right? And sort of addressing what's the location of the bid proposal, job size, bonding, something that will filter and will be a quick process to identify if that opportunity is a good one. A lot of companies actually have a bid process, but they don't have a bid research process, SOP, right? So it's essential that you do have a bid research process, especially for the business development representative in your business, either if it's the owner or you do have a department or a person that focuses on identifying bid proposals and establishing relationships with organizations, or if it's just the estimator. But it's important to do the research and have a process for that, and on top have a process for the estimating protocol, right? So like I mentioned, develop a questionnaire that addresses the main factors: location, size, bonding, anything that will mark you out. If all the questions addressed to yes, you qualify, then go to the next phase, of course, of reviewing this opportunity with a team and seeing what the competition is, what's the profitability off of the project, and then learning from this experience. It's so important to on those systemized operation procedures to have a measuring time. So if you have someone that's identifying, doing research, it's important to write down the time investment that that person did to identify the opportunity, to the time investment you took to communicate, to develop the emails, to do all the research. And then obviously you also want to have some kind of outcome. What are the new connections you were able to do, right? If you were going through the identification process, you probably spoke to maybe the estimator, a small business liaison, project managers, maybe because you did your research before the bid was out. So try to get a learning experience and then write it down, track it, because after you see a consistent submittal or identification of opportunities, you'll be able to go through the comparisons, right, and see if this organization really works for you. And going through the bid selection, let's say you've identified an opportunity, you did your research, or maybe you found out that there was an organization that's really a good fit for you. So if you found an RFP, there's a process, and sometimes that process is very self-explanatory, like adding everything to the calendar and getting the team to understand that there's a project that's coming up. But sometimes if we don't go through the process in writing and identify, sort of make ourselves a checklist, we can leave behind certain essential elements. So adding the project to the calendar, attend the job walks, identify if it's necessary to attend the job walks, But even if it isn't, and you have the opportunity to go to the pre-bid meetings and the job walks, it's so important to do that. One is because you obviously want to see what the details. Sometimes there's specs on the plans that you might not be able to catch, or let's say there's when you're doing the job walk, there's items that are not in the specs that you might be able to catch. That's a better and then the other reason is because you want to connect with all the attendees. You can make this situation sort of a free networking experience. You're gonna depending on how big the project is, if they have a pre-bid meeting, you're definitely gonna be talking to or connecting with project managers that are going to explain the process, and the estimators and the safety compliance representatives and the labor compliance representatives. You want to get to know all of them through that organization, because if you like, and you, let's say you identify an opportunity and you see that there's more opportunities coming up, they might be good connections to have if in case you have a question relating to compliance, or you have a question on another project. So it's very important to participate on the job walks, not only for the project, but also to connect. You also want to find ways to connect with the estimator and project manager. Sometimes there's a lot of contractors that are a little introvert, right? And sometimes they end up trying to guess, or they're rushing the bid, and they're trying to guess what the answer is out of looking at all the documents, the preparation documents, whenever it has to do with technical proposals or developing the bid itself. Avoid that. Obviously, never guess. Ask before, and ask. And if you ask, make sure you do a thorough review, because a lot of estimators and project managers are dealing with this project and multiple projects, right? And they get irritated if in case you're connecting with them and you ask them, when the job walk is, or you ask them something that's right there in front of you on the RFP, right? All they're going to say is go to the RFP, and that's not really a good impression or a good first impression. So before, make sure you review the RFP carefully and make a list of all the questions you want to address. And of course, there's Q&A situations that you have to wait, but there are situations that might not be pertaining to the bid, right? There are situations that might be pertaining to something outside of the bid, where you can ask a question, or try to connect with the project manager or the estimator, and demonstrate your knowledge. For example, if you go through the bid proposal and you go through you did the job walk and you go through the plans, if you can identify a solution that's going to save them money, don't stay without communicating that, because it's so important to let them know. I mean, every organization have their estimators, but not all of them are extremely knowledgeable on what you focus on what your trade is. So if you explain and educate them, they really appreciate it, and you're reflecting your dedication and your communication skills, and your professionalism, right? How skillful you are on your trade. And then also, if in case there are certain solutions, let them know, calculate the savings, let them know that this can be an alternative, and you will definitely stand out that way through the bid proposal. Now, I mentioned the SOPs, systemized operating procedures. I wanted to share some examples on some of the smaller contractors or trade contractors might not have this process. There's so many companies that don't have SOPs, and there's so many company owners that know they have to go through this, but you know, we keep pushing it back, and before you know it, you just didn't do it. So it's very important to try and develop workflow charts, SOPs, to be able to measure the outcome. If you go through the process from researching and identifying an opportunity all the way to executing the proposal, you'll have phases of that address your time investment, the money you invested, the hurdles you have to go through, and start learning from those experiences. This PowerPoint is going to be shared with all the participants. So all these links are going to be hyperlinked and shared with you. But these links are just, there's some project management and estimating softwares and applications that are amazing nowadays. That some will have the opportunity, they're all in one. They'll have workflow chart options, estimating tool options, the spreadsheet to develop SOPs. I mean, to be able to clock in and clock out. I mean, there's so many advantages to some of the softwares. So if in case you guys want to compare, these links will allow you to compare, talk about some of those apps, their features, the pros and cons, and of course, the free trials that you might be able to have. Of course, any of these can be done more organically, right? If you have an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, which everybody works with, you'll be able to develop a really good template for estimating, workflow charts, SOPs, and yeah, it takes time, but it's well worth the time, because as you invest on this time to be a little more structured, on the long run, you're going to be a lot more streamlined. Okay. And then, of course, communication. It's so important to communicate and learn from the experience of this process, right? I already gave some examples of or an example of what an SOP will provide, but we really want to, and I want to emphasize on how to measure. Sometimes you might even have to be a little aggressive on measuring in a weekly, monthly, or quarterly process to identify the outcome, because usually the typical outcome of contractors bidding out is 5, right? 5 bids, and then you get awarded another one. Well, if there's a process to reduce estimating on a bid, on 5 bids in order to get one project, you obviously will save, you're going to have a more profitable outcome. So some of the processes that you need to do in the bid development measuring aspect is identifying how many times have we bid for this organization, and how many times have we been way off the board, the charts, right? Or how many times have we been competitive, and sort of set for your team and your organization a stop, right? A measuring process where, if in case you've already submitted 4 bids or 5 bids or even 6 bids and you don't get anything, then you might want to try to focus and identify another organization that you can do work with. Debriefs. I don't know if any of you know about the debriefs, but these are follow-ups. These are very important to understand if you are if you are being competitive, if your estimator is seeing your bid as a qualifying bid proposal. And they can give you a lot of estimators or project managers or contracting officers can have a one, if you request a debrief, you can have a one-on-one with them. They go over your bid submittal and proposal, and they'll let you know what really, what areas you have to work in regards of your presentation, whether if it needs to be a little more organized or if you need to be a little more competitive. And the nice thing about a lot of the larger organizations is that if it's a public organization, you can also compare your bidding prices and proposals with other competitors in past. And of course, after evaluating off of the follow-up, the debriefs, and the time investment, then you sort of want to challenge yourself. Okay, if, let's say you're submitting 4 bids per month, and you're identifying that the 5th bid is awarded, then maybe you can challenge your team and yourself to say, well, now out of measuring and seeing, we're going to try to get awarded on the 3rd bid proposal. So as you sort of sharpen your process, you'll get more successful outcome off of that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it was simple, but there's a lot of tools that will allow you to streamline your process, and we are here to help. Like I mentioned, we're gonna send the presentation over hyperlinked for your convenience, and we highly invite you to complete our assessment. This assessment allows us to understand and communicate with you your existing capacity that you have for your organization, and then we provide free resources. We provide a recommended construction niche professionals if in case you don't have them, and especially if you're driven to want to grow and evolve to other areas in the construction industry. For example, if you're going from private commercial, now you're wanting to go into public works or the federal arena, then through our assessment, we can identify what's that best process. What is the best way to get you to the level you want to be in. And then, of course, organizations, is so important to be a part of organizations that are there to help you get opportunities. So we provide a list of recommended organizations for you to participate with and sort of network, get the advantages of their organizations. And then we obviously provide solutions if in case we do see that there are areas in your process that are for better and efficient improvement, just like the estimating tools that I was sharing with you guys, and the comparisons. Here is the hyperlink for the assessment. If in case you want to do it digitally, we have that option. We can also send a PDF as long as you can email us. We can send the assessment via PDF, and then you can connect with us, scan it, and email it back, and we'll do the assessment for you. And we encourage you to subscribe. We just recently started our YouTube channel where we're implementing these webinars as well, and we have many clips of DIYs, so how to get certified, or where to go to register for prevailing wage projects, anything like that. We'll have it available, and we're increasing our library in our YouTube account. And of course, if there are any other webinars that are coming, you can go to our website, or you can like our social media